Design for Serenity, Laura Loves Succulents on Instagram. I forget the YouTube channel. What is it?
Laura Eubanks.
Laura Eubanks on YouTube. So it's our great pleasure to have Laura back for year 2. This is our 9th annual Succulent Extravaganza. Laura's second, so we really appreciate that. Just a quick kind of overview of the afternoon. After Laura, Janet Sluice from Sunset Garden Collection is on at noon. Right now it's 10:45. I'll give a backstage tour at about 1:30. We'll line up over here. So lots of stuff left for the day. Enjoy yourself. Great tacos at the truck that I think just opened. So enjoy your lunch and have a good time. Give it up for Laura Eubanks.
Woo!
To mess around with succulents.
Yeah.
How many of you are into succulents? Thought I'd get us all on the same page first, right? Yes. Yes, I thank you all so much for being here, and also want to take a moment to thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the wonderful support and comments and love that you showed my family in our recent health crisis. Those of you that don't know, my husband Greg had a cardiac arrest 6 weeks ago at an airport in Minneapolis and survived. I survived because of you. I was just overwhelmed with the outpouring of love. So I thank you. Greg is accepting hugs on my behalf. I'm accepting hugs on his behalf. He wasn't strong enough to be here today, but you know, if you want to make the trek back next year, he'll be here. He's doing really, really well. So thank you all again so much. Thank you. So I am supposed to do something with this Calavera pot. And I mean, eyes closed and both hands tied behind my back. I love Calavera. I've actually planted this very pot more times than I can count in gardens all over San Diego County and Orange and LA. And I never, you know, I don't have any background professionally in I don't have a degree in anything. I just started messing with succulents about 7 or 8 years ago. I was a garden designer. Again, I didn't mean to be, it was an accident. I started gardening for myself about 15 years ago as a form of therapy, because I had children. And yeah, right. And people know, I remember we had a big yard sale, and I only landscaped the backyard. I was not confident landscaping the front because, you know, I didn't know and I didn't want to be judged. So I just wanted to garden for myself. Well, we had this big yard sale and neighbors started coming in through the back gate, and a defining moment for me was when an elderly neighbor looked left, looked right, and he said, "This is the most beautiful display of backyard impatience I've ever seen." And I thought, really? Is it? But that planted a seed, no pun intended, in my pointy head. And I thought, well, maybe, you know, I really like gardening. Maybe, you know, someone will pay me to do this for them. I had a bunch of kids. You know, I wanted to be home when they were home, but that left hours, you know, while they were at school. And so I got a client that was willing to pay me to putter around and do pots, and that's what I did. And that was just, you know, like I said, about 15 years ago. 7 years ago, I was introduced to succulents. My daughter gave me Deborah Lee Baldwin's book on succulent container design, and I was blown away at the potential of these plants with color, because I was a color person and I loved my annuals. I loved my impatiens. I loved my pansies and my petunias and all of the color that those plants brought. What I didn't love was the maintenance and the deadheading and the replacing every 6 to 8 weeks and all that goes with dealing with perennials and annuals. So I started to mess around with these plants, and that was the beginning of what is now a worldwide obsession. I travel literally all over the world teaching, installing gardens, and just spreading the joy and the love that I have for these plants. So if you have any burning questions as we go, do not hesitate to ask, and I will do my very best to answer them. Remember, this is just School of Hard Knocks, and all of the advice that I give is just based on the experience that I've had working with these plants. So, with a pot, what is the very first thing that we need to consider? The thriller, right? Oh, drainage? Did somebody say okay, yeah, you're not wrong. You're right. We do need to consider that, but that's so boring. Yeah, obviously, yeah, drainage. Does a pot have to have a hole in it? No. If you know what you're doing, you don't need to have a hole in the pot if you know how to regulate and monitor watering. But a lot of people aren't real confident with that. So it's important to have drainage so that when you overwater, the water has somewhere to go. Succulents can survive drought like a champ, but overwatering is the surest way to kill it. How many of you have killed a succulent by giving it too much to drink? Yay! We should start a support group. I have killed more succulents in my day by overdoing it or just watering at the wrong time. Am I right? Yeah, I mean, there's plants that some of you water in the winter and some you water in the summer. So I have learned through experience. You know, I just want to encourage you to be brave and to take risks. And to try, and don't be afraid to fail, because we don't learn anything when we're getting it right. It's through failure that we learn. I am almost a genius. So there you go. All right. Now. Yeah, Petalanthus bracteus. I love this plant. I use this all the time in San Diego, and it's still not that common. I put it in every garden that I do. This is the most fantastic vertical succulent. You know, for that place that you got a 2-foot flower bed and a 19-foot wall, this is what you do. You put in Petalanthus bracteus. Will it tolerate hard freezes? Not real well. But it doesn't mind a little frost cloth. Will it drop all of its leaves if the temperatures drop below 40 degrees? Yes, it will. But guess what? When it warms up, the leaves come right back. It's a pretty tough plant. Very slow growing from a cutting. That's why I think it's so expensive, because it takes forever to get this size. I mean, this plant has been around for a minute. You can see some Petalanthus bracteus in this flower bed right over here. You guys get a sense of its potential. It will get twice that size and twice that wide in a matter of a year or two. Wow. So this is a fantastic plant. I chose it for my pot. Yeah, she just cut the roots. How rude. Why did I do that? Because I'm lazy and I don't want to dig a hole and I don't want to mess with the roots. Roots are optional with succulents for the most part. And the way I'm able to get these plants packed in so tightly is I knock off most, if not all, the soil and most, if not all, the roots, and then just cram them in as tight as I can. I think succulents like root competition. That's been my experience. They don't mind it, and I don't have the patience to wait for it to fill in. Oh my gosh, no. So I want it to be filled in yesterday. Yeah, so if you're like me, you understand that. Now, are we gonna plant this thriller right dead set center of this pot? No. Why? That seems logical. Boring, yeah, kind of like drainage. So we want to go back to the left or to the right, slightly back and to the left or right of center. Oddly enough, it just, at the end of the day, when this pot is done, it's going to look more natural than if we plant it right smack dab in the center of the pot. So I'm going to stage this back a little bit and to the left. Then we want to make sure that we angle the plant, you know, so it's got its best face forward. That's always important. Then, what do I always say when your succulent stands up? You've done your job. Right, that's my rule of planting succulents. If it's standing, you're good. You can go watch the game. You don't need to stick around or do anything else. Soil, as long as it drains, we're golden. Succulents love well-draining, crappy, poor soils. You know, they show most stress in difficult conditions. And that's a difficult condition when there's not a lot of nutrients in the soil. However, if you do have really great soil, they love that too. I plant underneath all of my citrus trees that I have at home in pots are underplanted with succulents. And I fertilize my citrus trees organically about every 6 weeks. And I water them a lot. And the succulents don't mind a bit. They're fine. They're nice and plump. May not be quite as colorful as I would like because of all the water they're getting, but they don't mind. So water, don't water. You know, fertilize, don't fertilize. Just have fun with these plants. These things are the closest thing to rubber in the animal kingdom, or in the plant kingdom. So don't be so concerned. All right, after you've got your thriller, you need to start packing in your fillers. And I want to go with my height first. I love the crassulas. I know. They're ordinary. They're kind of common. Well, so I'm ordinary. People still like me. And look. Right? Isn't that beautiful? These are both crassulas. And this is Argentea Sunset. This is one of my favorite plants to work with because of this phenomenal color. And packed together, they are just so beautiful. So don't ever underestimate the crassula for beauty and for predictability.
So I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
How deep is that in the pot there?
Oh, yes. Well, I want it to be just under grade, the plant, so I can bring the soil level up to about, you know, right about to the base. See where it's white? This is where you can tell it was in the pot. So right about to here.
Alrighty.
And it doesn't really matter. You know, it's wherever you feel it looks best.
How much soil do you have in it right now?
The pot is about 3/4 full right now. And you can pack in larger pots. If you want to pack packing peanuts or any non-decompostable bottles, the bag the soil came in, the can the soil came in, if you want to cram those into the pot and then put soil on top, you can do that because the succulents only need a little bit. Remember, what is the gold standard? If they stand. So just enough soil that they're not going to flop over when you walk away. Okay. So, yes. Question about that Crassula argentea that I just held up. Does it have, you know, is it hardened off? Does it have roots? No, I just cut it 15 minutes ago. Am I going to put any kind of root, what is it called?
Root tone.
Root what?
Root tone.
Root tone? No. Am I going to let it, put it in a box in the garage for 2 weeks? No, I'm just going to plant it because I live in San Diego and I can do that. I do respect the fact that not everybody lives in San Diego and you have weather that you have to consider in some places. So hardening a plant off just simply means allowing it time to callus, that wound to callus. And some plants are sensitive, like agaves, for example. If you don't harden, even in San Diego, if I don't harden an agave off before I put it in the ground as a cutting, it will sunburn and get that ugly white, you know, burn marks all over the leaves. So if you're concerned, by all means, take your cutting, put it in a box, stick it in the garage, and give it a week. But you shouldn't really be concerned, especially crassulas, they're tough. I'm going to be working with rooted plants and cuttings. So don't let me forget to tell you how to handle that watering situation at the end, since I'm going to have both rooted plants and cuttings. Okay, see how I, you know, decimated the soil and, scratched off a lot of the roots. Why did I do that? Because I want to be able to pack my plants in tight, and I don't want a lot of root and soil in my way, and because I'm just too lazy to dig holes. So this plant is going to go as a filler right at the base of my Petalanthus bracteus. So good that I have two hands. And look, multitasking. Look at me.
Doing the
Working now.
Squats, yes.
Paying attention to my form. Bending with the knees. Straight back. Oh yeah, I got this dialed in. Okay. Also, remember to pack your soil down really well as you go, or what's going to happen in a few months, you're going to go look at that pot and the soil level is going to be down to half, isn't it? Yeah, so pack it really well. Okay, what am I going to pull next?
Another tall one.
Somebody, please help me. Out here.
Filler.
Yeah, more filler.
And the spiller.
Yes, and I've got, every good pot has to have a spiller. So, I'm feeling like I really want to pull in this Kalanchoe, this Lucier. I pulled this on purpose because of the trunk. I don't like trunks on most plants. I think they're a tad unsightly.
Oh, she's cutting it.
There.
Now she's happy.
Better. There you go. This plant, tough as nails. Never be afraid to work with it as a cutting. It's, thank you, Hannah. Kalanchoe, I'm pretty sure this is Lucier, paddle plant. Just a phenomenal monocarpic plant. See, monocarpic means that after it blooms, it dies, but typically not before she gives you some babies, right? So this little, and what's gonna happen to this now? You can put this in your garden of death and just ignore it. Garden of death is where plants go to live or die, but it's up to them. We all have one. This is so funny. This little sedum leaf was just dropped in this pot and it's sprouting a little plant. I mean, it's just, it just happened. So give these plants some credit, all right? You don't have to baby them. You'll probably be better off just ignoring them. So this is gonna go over in the Garden of Death, and in time, it will likely regenerate and we'll get a brand new plant out of it. So there's no waste. Well done, Hannah.
Gotta pack down the soil, Mom.
Put more soil in there.
You taught me that.
Yeah. Yes, you do. Okay. Especially when I'm working with a cutting. So I'm just gonna, the cuttings, you can just tuck them in. And remember, when you're putting together a pot, if you don't like the way something looks, just pull it out and move it to some other place. This is not necessarily have to be permanent. Now, with Calavera too, Calavera is a little tricky. There's a lot going on in this pot, isn't there? Mm-hmm. So you're gonna notice that I'm kind of choosing plants that mirror some of the patterns and designs on the pot. Like the Kalanchoe. The fan shapes that you see on the pot mirror the shape of the leaf. So with design, you want repetition in color, repetition in form. Even though I'm going to be planting this pot really, really full, by pulling in some of the color and the pattern repetition, it's not going to look busy. It's going to be gorgeous. And that's the kind of attitude you have to have. Gosh darn it, it's going to be gorgeous. All right. Then some of these Kalanchoes, these smaller Kalanchoes, I need more height, and I want this pot to be a 360 degree. I want it to be pretty from all angles. And also you can elevate your soil if you want to cheat and add a little height, right, like this. So my soil level is, I've mounded up in the middle. And you can absolutely do that to kind of cheat and give the look of more height. Then this one can be planted staged down a little lower, like that. And if you can't find the plant that you love in a 1 gallon can, or if they have ones and you really want a 5, just buy multiples of the smaller and plant it like one thing. Okay. Again, I am copying the scalloped edging, and the colors of these leaves are repeating in the pattern of the pot. Now this spiller, we talked about how every arrangement needs to have a thriller, a filler, and a spiller. Rallianus, this one is not easy, is it? A bit of a diva. Likes water, hates heat. Winter grower, summer dormant. So in the summertime, you're going to want to make sure that this girl gets some shade. If you can provide some shade in the summer, you should be okay with this plant. Remember, with succulents, in the summer, in the hotter months, it's not about water, it's about temperature. Your plants are struggling not because they need water, but because they need cooler temperatures. So my solution is to put beach umbrellas up all over my yard. The neighbors always know that I'm on one when the umbrellas come out. Because I don't have a lot of hot days in San Diego, but we will have some in triple digits. And I know that my plants don't need me to go out there with the hose. They need me to drop that temperature 20 degrees. Because what happens when the plants get hot, when the weather gets hot, they go dormant, right? They stop producing. So if you throw water on a dormant plant, what's going to happen? It's going to rot. And we all know that succulents don't tolerate rot. And remember, these camels of the horticultural world are storing water in all of their leaves and in their trunks and in their stems. So they can handle it. They can go for a month, 6 weeks, 2 months with no water and just live on what they have stored. So if you're ever in doubt, don't water. Okay.
Could you just cover them with like the film?
Can you cover the plant with a film, like with a frost cloth?
Yeah, would you do that for
Sure.
the first, for those hot days?
Absolutely. Anything that you can do to protect that plant from the beating sun and from the heat will be helpful in securing its survival. I don't need all of this, so I'm just going to take what I need.
What kind is that?
This is Senecio rallianus, or string of pearls. That's plenty. Now, why did I pick this one? Because I just like the look of this plant with Calavera. I don't want, good grief, I don't want a spiller that's gonna take too much space visually away from all of the beautiful decor of the pot. So I didn't choose the string of, the fish hooks or the string of bananas or another spiller that's going to grow like crazy and cover up all of this beautiful decoration. That's why I chose this spiller. Now, here's another fun trick. I kind of want to break this up a little bit. It's a lot of that. It's a lot happening there. I want to break it up. So, I'm going to take some of this Kalanchoe tomentosa pretty much as a cutting. Use my multi-tool.
Good dig.
Yeah. And I'm going to tuck it right on in there. Okay. So that's a fun thing you can do too, to kind of break it up if you've got a lot going on or you want to add a little bit of interest amongst a plant. Now, these little guys String of buttons. This is a stacking crassula. These are not great as cuttings, at least in my experience. They don't do real well. They're a little persnickety, so this one's better if you leave some roots on this plant. This is another crassula. This is tricolor. It's cream, green, and pink. I don't even need to say anything. So I'm going to take pieces of this, because it's another one. It's so tough, and just kind of pop it in where I see little gaps. When you think you're done, you're not. Write that down. Okay. All right. Now, this gorgeous Echeverria. I picked this plant, one, because I love the color, and you know, we've got this flower design all over the pot, which is going to mirror beautifully with this plant. But in the summer, when these tend to bloom, what happens? The mother throws a lot of her energy to the bloom spike. So when they're done, when they start to turn brown, it's real important to cut off the bloom. Okay, you'll get a longer life out of your Echeverria if you don't let them go to bloom too long. Now the hummingbirds love these, the bees love these, so I want to support the wildlife as much as I possibly can, but this is past its prime. You know, it's not doing anybody any favors. Don't hesitate to just cut it off, okay? Also, don't bugs attack blooms, little mealybugs and aphids. Do you ever notice that? They kind of go after that new growth. So if you're okay with it, just get rid of the bloom. Don't even mess with it. All right. And the little dead leaves at the bottom of your plant, just grooming, just get rid of those, pull those off. They can often house insects and pests, and they don't look great. So when the leaf is done and it dies back, just take it off. If you have leaves that are dying at the bottom of your plant, that's not a problem. That's life. That's normal. Look at what's happening in here. If you see lots and lots of healthy growth at the crown, then you know your plant is okay. All right? Don't worry about spots on bottom leaves, you know, or leaves dying at the bottom or turning color. That just happens. That's age. Okay. Yeah, we know. We know all about that. So, why did I put that there? Why did I put this here? One thing that you've got to know before you can start charging people, I didn't know this when I started charging people, but luckily people are nice. You've got to know how these things are going to grow. You know, and how do you learn how something's going to grow? Experience. That's all. You just need experience. Pay attention. That's something I've learned over the years. I know the rates of growth for all the plants I'm putting in the pot, and I plan it accordingly. I know who's going to get tall. I know who's going to stay short. I know who's going to spill. I know who's going to stand up. I know when they're going to flower, if they're going to flower, if they can take the sun, if they can't take the sun. How did I learn all that? Experience, that's all. I didn't read any books. I looked at some pictures. But yeah, I made a lot of mistakes. But the beauty of these plants is they're so easy to uproot and move around. You know, if we do make a mistake, they're very, very forgiving. All right, how's that looking? Is that looking okay? Good, okay.
Needs more.
Oh, it definitely needs more. I can see those gaps. So this little string of buttons, I know that this is a really low grower, and I want it front and center. And if this girl wants to spill over the side of the pot, I would not be offended by that. So I'm going to pack this in right here with the idea, knowing that it's going to stay low profile. It's not going to overpower the plants behind it, and it might even give me some spill. Crassula string of buttons. And this is Senecio rowleyanus. And this is a Kalanchoe. And the only reason I know that is because it's the language that I speak. I am fluent in succulent. Now this fuzzy Doris Taylor, I love the fuzzy ones, don't you? I mean, they're just so fun. I'm gonna put her over here because I want to balance the weight of these Echeverria rosettes. So I'm gonna put one catty corn. Yeah, just stuff them in. Don't be shy. I did pull one little aloe. I cut this off of something. I just thought it was really interesting, and I think it's important. It takes your designs up a notch if you can get some different texture going in the pot too. Another thing that you'll notice about this is it's very soft, isn't it? There's nothing with any kind of spine, and I love the aloes because they're so gentle. These little spines are not going to come off. They're not like a cactus. This is a medicinal kind of plant. It's safe, but it gives that kind of hard cactus feel, and it's just a nice contrast in this pot. Or you'll see that it's going to be a nice, or we'll all see. Will this take over? Oh my gosh, that's such a good question.
Yeah, I think I have some.
I pulled this off of a stand this big by like this tall. There were hundreds of these and some were huge. So what am I doing? Putting this in this little pot with all these other plants, knowing its potential. I don't care. First of all, it's a cutting, so it's going to take a hot minute for this to grow. It's still got to throw off a new root system and get acclimated. So it'll sit here and just be cute, maybe even turn more pink because I cut its head off, for a year or two. And then it'll start to, this whole thing's going to grow. But when something starts to grow in a way that I don't like, I'm just going to pull it out, size it up, and stick it back in the pot. Or maybe I'll divide it and put its babies in another pot. Or that's the beauty of it. We're not planting oak trees here. These things are very easy to manipulate, to move, to resize, to shape, to cut. So get your mind off of that mentality of, oh, well, I planted it and that's it. There's nothing more we can do. You can always mess with it anytime. So don't be afraid to take something that has the potential to get as big as an SUV and put it in a pot the size of a litter box. Wow, it's funny how my mind went there. Right? Okay.
How do you water this?
Yes, how do you water this? I'll get to that in a minute. So you can't see this from here, but this isn't actually really planted. It's not really touching the soil. That's okay. It'll figure it out. It'll touch it eventually. Yeah. I mean, for the most part, soil, as long as your plant is in the vicinity of soil, as long as soil is a suggestion. What happens when you throw a cutting along the side of the house and forget about it and you go back in a couple of months? What's it done? Roots, right, everywhere, right? It's looking, it's searching. These plants are almost scary smart. So, and also it is a cutting. So the fact that it's not touching soil or planted in soil is not a bad thing. It's going to give that wound a chance to callus and harden off. So, don't worry about it. What did I say? If it stands up, if it's doing what you want it to do, you're good. Okay. And, I mean, you can't have a Calavera pot without Crassula argentea sunset, can you? The yellow, is that even real? It doesn't even look real. Yes. How much space am I leaving? None. Depth. Got it. I mean, it's not an intentional thing. There's about this much room, but I just wanted to point it out because it's in my experience, it's totally all right. And yes, I could have built the soil level up, but I'm not done planting. So I just know that that's going to be just fine, even though it isn't actually touching the dirt. And same is going to be the case probably with this Argentea, because I want to put it right here. Oh, it will touch the dirt because I mound it up. But I want to stick this. See, this is the fun too of working with cuttings, because when you've got it all packed in real tight, then you can add more. I mean, I couldn't do that if there were a bunch of roots and soil attached.
True.
I wanted to show you a couple of things. This is Aeonium kiwi, and this is Aeonium sunburst. Similar, but not the same. I get more questions about these two plants. Not the same. This one grows much larger than this. This grows as more of an arboretum or a solitary with some offsets. This gets more of a bush shape. So, but they are similar and they're both beautiful. These plants, these Aeoniums are sensitive, and if you work with them as cuttings, they do bruise very easily, don't they? Aeonium sunburst can get little black spots on the leaves if it gets bruised or burnt. You just kind of have to deal with it. But don't worry, you have not done anything wrong. It's just life. It got a little chillier, it got a little hot. It'll grow out of it.
Can I ask you a question on that?
Yes,
The
you can.
Sunburst, I think it is.
Yes.
The bigger one?
Yes,
I
sunburst.
have them with totally yellow, and then variegated for the big top. But how do you get just the total yellow one?
How do you get just a total yellow? Some of them are kind of a cream color too. The little rosettes are sort of a cream color. That's a lack of chlorophyll. You kind of need that green in order to sustain. The plant needs the green in order to sustain life. So the all light pale yellows and the all whites probably won't survive.
So does that plant die once it?
It is another monocarpic plant, yes. Aeoniums are one-offs, bloom and die, but once again, typically not before they've given you lots of babies. Okay, I need something right there. Okay, oh yeah. Kind of pull this Lucier up a little. You know what?
There you go.
Yeah, I need more soil in there. There. Yeah, now you can see it. Yeah, for sure. And then I've still got a little gapper right there. So now that you know that you can use cuttings, how fun is this going to be for you to make a pot, right? People will look at it and go, how did you do that? Now, what is something that I hate to see? Dirt. Somebody said it. Yes. Do I like to see soil showing? No, I don't. So top dressing is critical when you're doing pots. I don't care if you're a collector and you have a lot of black nursery pots all over your yard. Top dress them with something. Come on, have some pride. You can do this. It just drives me crazy to see naked plants. See, and we can take some more of the Argentea and pop that in. I got one element, two element. I need a third element. Let's put it right there. Now, what is going to happen when these get their roots and start to grow? Same as everything else. We can deconstruct the pot at any time, part of it or all of it. Now note the composition. We've got our thriller, and this Bracteus has the potential to get very, very large, and I'm going to let it. If this were my pot at home, this is how I'd start it. Then as evolution, as time passed, I would start to maybe pull some things out and allow some of the more prominent plants to take over. That might be a look that I would go for. Maybe I would encourage the aloe and the bracteus and the Echeverria, and I'd pull out some of the fillers. Or maybe I like the look of it being very, very crowded and with lots going on, and I want to maintain that. So I would just simply keep pulling stuff out, cutting off roots, and sticking it back in the ground. Don't be afraid of these pots. The beauty of pots, too, is you can move them. So if you've got your pot in a location and it's pouting and it's not happy, move it. Sometimes 5 feet is all that's needed for a pot to go from being unhappy to being happy. I love this fireglass so much in Calavera. I just love this. It's just a party. And even though I know I have packed this so tight, you're thinking, well, where is she going to put that? There, I can see dirt. I mean, if I get right up on this, I can see it. And it just isn't finished until we get the top dressing. So you're going to want to lift the skirts. I say this all the time in my videos. And this is also a way that you know if you've missed some spots with soil, too. If you've got some gaps. When you start to do your top dressing and you push the leaves back and go, oh my gosh, I can push my hand all the way down to the bottom of the pot. I better put some more dirt in there.
What do you recommend for soil?
Soil. Anything that drains. Anything. I have had, I mean, I'm the person that buys whatever's on sale. I don't really have a specific blend, but remember where I live too. You know, it doesn't matter for me. I live where it rarely ever rains, so I can get away with anything. If you have conditions that are not great for succulents and you want to give them a great fighting chance, then you're going to want a soil that is specifically made for cactus and succulents. And that is a blend that has a lot of porous material like vermiculite. It has sand or decomposed granite. It's typically kind of lightweight, and it's premium for, you know, encouraging that drainage. If you're not concerned about that, just get whatever's on sale. Okay, all right. How's that look from the front?
Beautiful. Yeah.
I think that's it.
Wow. That is
I am
great.
open for questions. If you want to come on up and ask, I'd love to meet you and get some pictures. Oh, water. Water. I'm good, thanks. No. Oh. Okay, yeah, so I've got rooted plants, I've got non-rooted plants, I've got soft, I've got aloes. How do I water it? Well, watering isn't really important either, because we've been over this. These plants store so much in their leaves and stems already that we tend to overdo it. So my rule of thumb is it takes a week or so for a plant cutting to callus. Now, I planted in dry soil, so these plants are going to callus in the soil, no problem. So I'm going to give this pot 2 weeks before I'm going to water. Then I'm going to be gentle about it. I'm going to put the equivalent of about a gallon of water on a pot this size. I'm not going to wait. My grandma used to stand over pots and water until it ran through the drain, and oh my gosh, she's so intentional about it. Don't overdo it with it. Give it about a gallon of water every couple of weeks. And if you're gone for a month or two, that's also okay. Remember, less is more with succulents. Also, if this is in a more shaded environment as opposed to a sunnier environment, that would mean that you would dial back on the water a little bit because the plants won't grow as fast. Okay, so 1 gallon, 2 weeks, intervals. All right, okay. Yes, ma'am.
After you arrange plants, do you put it under the shade for a while, like cover first, or do you just put it direct under the
Okay, where do I put it? And I think that's a really good question, and it depends on the time of year, doesn't it? You know, if it's the middle of winter or the middle of summer, I might not want to put it out in an exposed area. I might want to put it under a patio or next to the house if it's the temperatures are extreme. In the spring, in the fall, I think it's okay to just put it wherever you'd like. If it's real, real hot, yeah, you might want to give it a little protection, put up a little umbrella, give it a chance to acclimate before you turn it loose into the full hot sun. All right, yes ma'am.
I have read about top dressing keeping too much moisture inside and not letting the soil dry out. And I know you're like a top dressing fanatic. Do
Yes.
you ever have that be a problem for you?
Yeah, well, what top dressings, they keep the water in and don't let the plants breathe and they might die. Theoretically, I guess I can understand that. And in practice, though, that has never been an issue
Just don't water.
in anything I've done. Yeah. Yeah, I think, again, if you are overwatering, you're overwatering, whether you've top dressed or not. Just dial it back. Top dressing helps hold, look at it from a sunny perspective, right? That's a good thing. The water that you are giving it is gonna sustain the plant longer and longer intervals between watering because of top dressing. Yeah. That's how we're looking at that, right? Yes. If your container does not have a drainage hole, you need to be extra careful about the water. Don't overdo it. I would suggest misting succulents in pots that don't have holes. That's a great way to control the amount of water. Remember, the roots are extremely shallow. Also, succulents can intake water through their leaves, and I have applied that principle to all of the succulents that I've ever grown inside. I never water, I always mist. And I do like to water from overhead rather than drip if I had my preference, simply because I want to rinse off all the dust, the dirt, the bugs, by giving it a little rinse. But that's a personal choice. Any way you water is going to be fine. Just remember, less is more. They can, yes.
What was the question?
Can they take in water through their leaves? So if you mist, they can.
Do you ever put a pot in a tray?
Do I ever put a pot on a tray?
Or, water catching tray?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I usually always plant my pots either with a saucer or with feet, because I think it's a more finished look. And you want to protect the surface that you've planted, that you've set the pot on. And it also helps you monitor how much water you're putting in the pot. If it's overflowing the tray, you need to dial it way back. All right? Yes? Would I put a cactus in this pot? Heck yeah. You know it. I have done that very thing. I would do that. If you like that look, you do it. It's fine. It'll be fine. The only caveat, the only plant that I have killed on any kind of a regular basis is a lithops, or one of those split rocks or living stones. Yeah. They're fussy, so I don't recommend mixed plantings with lithops. But I have cactus and succulents growing together. I've got, like I said, fruit trees. I've even grown succulents under my vegetables because I didn't want to look at dirt. True story. I have gorgeous tomato plants with all kinds of succulents growing under them. I'm the person that actually deadheads her tomato plants and limbs them and shapes them so that they're pretty tomato plants. Yes.
Do you have a kalanchoe or like an aloe that has a partially dead leaf? Like maybe the tip has gotten dead. Do you cut the leaf off? Do you cut half the leaf off?
Oh, what happens if you've got some deciduation on the leaf? Like with an aloe, for example. If half of the leaf is brown or it's cracked or broken, do you mess with that? See here, I've got a little bit of dieback on that leaf. I like, it's just it's dead anyway, so I will clip that off. Because it's a grooming thing. I just think it looks better. And what I tell my design assistants is if a leaf is more than 50% gone, take it off. But that's just, again, it's aesthetic. There's no hard, fast reason or rule. It's just a question of your tolerance and what you like. And remember, you're the judge of how your pots look. If you love it, it's beautiful.